The invitation arrived on cheap cardstock, the kind you buy in bulk from a discount store. Marcus Chen held it between his fingers, reading the elegant script that seemed to mock the paper it was printed on. 10-year reunion, Westbrook High Class of 2015. His daughter Emma looked up from her homework, studying his face with those wise eyes that seemed far too old for her 7 years. "What is it, Daddy?" Marcus forced a smile, the same one he'd perfected during those brutal high school years when Brad Morrison and his crew had made every day feel like walking through fire. "Nothing, sweetheart. Just some old memories trying to find their way back." But it wasn't nothing. 3 days later, his phone buzzed with a text from a number he'd deleted years ago but still recognized, like a scar that never quite faded. "Hey, Chen, saw you on the reunion list. You're coming, right? Would love to see what you've been up to. Still fixing toilets?" Brad. Marcus stared at those words, each one a carefully placed landmine. Brad Morrison, quarterback prom king. The boy who had made loser sound like Marcus's first name. The same Brad who had rallied half the senior class to sign a mock petition declaring Marcus most likely to die alone. The same Brad who had photoshopped Marcus's face onto a janitor's body and plastered it across social media with the caption, "Chen's future." His thumb hovered over the delete button, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the memory of his daughter asking him last week why he never talked about high school. Maybe it was the exhaustion of carrying shame that had never truly belonged to him. Or maybe, just maybe, it was something else entirely. Marcus typed back, "I'll be there." The 10 years between then and now had carved him into someone different. After his wife Sarah died giving birth to Emma, Marcus had made a choice. He could let grief consume him, or he could transform it into purpose. He chose the latter, pouring everything into being the father Emma deserved and the man Sarah had believed he could become. The plumbing business he'd started in his garage, the one Brad had mocked, had grown. Not because Marcus was ruthless or lucky, but because he genuinely cared. When Mrs. Patterson's pipes burst at 3 in the morning, Marcus arrived in 20 minutes and refused payment when he learned she'd just lost her job. When the community center's heating failed in February, he fixed it for free and threw in new water heaters. Word spread, not about a businessman, but about a man who showed up. Then came the call that changed everything. Richard Westmore, a real estate developer worth hundreds of millions, had a problem at his newest luxury hotel. Every contractor in the city had failed to solve the complex water pressure issue. Marcus spent 3 days living in that building, mapping every pipe, every joint, every connection. He found the problem, a design flaw the architects had missed, and fixed it. "What do I owe you?" Westmore had asked. Marcus named his standard rate. Westmore laughed and wrote a check for 10 times that amount. "That's for your honesty. Now I have a proposition." 6 months later, Marcus owned 15% of Westmore Properties. Not because he'd asked for it, but because Richard Westmore had seen something rare. A man who valued integrity over opportunity, who could have exploited the situation but chose fairness instead. The reunion was 2 weeks away when Emma found him looking at his old high school yearbook. She climbed into his lap, studying the photos of a younger, sadder version of her father. "You look scared here," she said, touching his senior portrait. "I was," Marcus admitted. "Some kids were really mean to me." Why? It was such a simple question, but Marcus had spent years trying to answer it. "Because I was different. My family didn't have much money. I was quiet. I liked fixing things instead of playing sports. And some people, when they see someone different, they get scared. And when they're scared, they sometimes become cruel." Emma processed this with the seriousness she brought to everything. "Are you going to see those mean kids?" "Some of them, yes." "Are you scared now?" Marcus looked at his daughter, this miracle of resilience and love, and realized he wasn't. "No, baby, I'm not scared anymore." "Good," Emma said firmly, "because you're the best daddy in the whole world. And if they can't see that, they're just being dumb." The night of the reunion, Marcus stood in front of his closet in jeans and a button-down shirt, comfortable, unpretentious, exactly who he'd always been. His phone rang, Richard Westmore. Marcus, I'm sending the rolls around. I need you to look at the Peterson building tomorrow, and it's on the way. Richard, I can drive myself. The rolls is already en route. Humor an old man. Besides, I had them stock it with those cookies Emma likes. Marcus laughed despite himself. This was Richard, generous to a fault, unable to do anything halfway. Fine, but this is excessive. Nonsense. See you tomorrow. When the Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up to Marcus's modest three-bedroom house, his neighbor Jerry whistled low. The driver, Thomas, greeted Marcus like an old friend, because he was. Marcus had fixed Thomas's mother's plumbing last year and refused payment. Looking sharp, Mr. Chen, Thomas said, opening the door. It's just Marcus, and I look exactly the same as always. Exactly, Thomas grinned. The Westbrook Hotel ballroom glittered with reunion. Clichés, a banner proclaiming Class of 2015, a playlist stuck in the past, and clusters of people desperately proving they'd become someone important. Marcus stepped inside, immediately recognizing faces. That time had softened, but not fundamentally changed. Then Brad Morrison appeared, looking exactly like someone who'd peaked in high school and spent a decade trying to recapture it. His smile was all teeth and no warmth. Chen, holy crap, you actually came. Brad's voice carried across the room, turning heads. Guys, look who decided to show up. Our very own Toilet King. A few people laughed, the same ones who'd always laughed on command. But Marcus noticed others looking uncomfortable, embarrassed even. Hi, Brad, Marcus said evenly. Good to see you. Man, we were just talking about you. Remember when you actually thought you'd make something of yourself? God, that was precious. Brad turned to his audience. Chen here told our careers counselor he wanted to help people. I guess fixing backed-up sewage technically counts, right? Marcus felt the old familiar heat rise in his chest. But before he could respond, Jessica Tran stepped forward. She'd been quiet in high school, invisible really, but her eyes were sharp now. Actually, Brad, I remember Marcus did make something of himself. I saw that article in the Business Journal about his partnership with Westmore Properties. Pretty impressive. Brad's smile flickered. Oh, yeah? Well, good for you, Chen. Seriously, must be nice to get a lucky break. It wasn't luck, came a voice from the entrance. Every head turned to see Richard Westmore himself, distinguished in a tailored suit, walking straight toward Marcus. It was integrity, something that can't be taught, bought, or faked. The room went silent. Richard Westmore was a legend in their city, his name on half the buildings downtown. Mr. Westmore, Brad stammered. I didn't know you'd be... I'm here for Marcus, Richard said simply. He fixed a problem at my property that a dozen supposedly expert contractors couldn't solve. But more than that, when he had me over a barrel, when he could have named any price, he charged me his standard rate. For his honesty, I made him a partner. Best business decision I ever made. Brad's face cycled through expressions, confusion, realization, horror. Richard continued, addressing the room now. I'm curious, though. Marcus has told me nothing about his high school years. He's not the type to dwell on the past, but I see some of you looking at him like he's still that kid you knew. Let me tell you who Marcus Chen is now. He's a father raising a remarkable daughter alone. He's a businessman who's never broken a promise. He's someone who fixed my buildings but also fixed my faith in people. He's someone who shows up. The silence was deafening. Marcus wanted to disappear, but Richard placed a firm hand on his shoulder. And that car outside, the Rolls-Royce that I'm sure some of you noticed, that's mine. I sent it for Marcus because he's too humble to accept the Ferrari I tried to give him last Christmas. He said, and I quote, "What would Emma think if I drove around in something so impractical?" Someone in the crowd laughed, a genuine laugh, then another. The ice broke. Brad stood frozen, his carefully constructed moment of mockery collapsing around him. But Marcus surprised everyone, including himself, by stepping forward. Brad, he said quietly, and the room leaned in to hear. I forgive you. Brad blinked. What? For high school? For the petition, the photos, the daily commentary on why I wasn't good enough. I forgive you. Marcus's voice was steady, not triumphant, not angry, just honest. I spent years carrying that around, letting it define me. But here's what I learned. Hurt people hurt people. I don't know what you were going through back then, what made you need to put others down to feel tall. But I'm done letting it matter." Brad's face crumpled, and for just a moment, Marcus saw beneath the bravado to something raw and broken. I was a jerk. God, Marcus, I was such a jerk." "Yeah," Marcus agreed. "You really were." The honesty of it broke something. Brad laughed, a surprised, genuine sound. "I don't deserve this. You showing up here, being decent about it." "Probably not," Marcus said, but he smiled. "But maybe that's the point. Maybe we all deserve more grace than we think." The rest of the evening transformed. People approached Marcus not with pity or awkwardness, but with genuine curiosity. What was Emma like? How did he manage as a single father? Could he really fix anything? The conversations were real, human, stripped of pretense. Jessica Tran pulled him aside near the end of the night. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For showing us who you really are. Half the people here spent the last decade trying to become someone impressive. You just became someone good." As Thomas drove him home, Marcus watched the city lights blur past. His phone buzzed with a text from Emma, sent by the babysitter. "Daddy, I can't sleep. Come home soon. Love you." "Thomas, can we hurry?" "Already on it, Marcus." When he walked through his door, Emma was waiting on the couch, fighting sleep. She stumbled into his arms. "How was it?" She mumbled against his chest. "It was healing," Marcus said, surprised by his own answer. "Did the mean kids say sorry?" "One did. The others just saw me differently." "Because you're amazing?" Marcus kissed her forehead. "Because I stopped needing them to think so." Later, tucking Emma into bed, she asked one more question. "Daddy, did you show them the car?" Marcus laughed. "The car doesn't matter, baby." "It never did." "Then what does?" He looked at his daughter, this perfect reminder of what real wealth looked like. This, you, showing up, being kind even when it's hard. That's what matters. Emma smiled, already drifting off. "I think Mommy would be proud of you." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "I think she'd be proud of both of us." The next morning, Marcus dropped Emma at school in his 8-year-old Honda. The Rolls-Royce had been impressive, sure, but this car had Emma's car seat, her stuffed elephant on the dashboard, her handprint in permanent marker on the glove compartment from when she was 3. This was his real life, not the partnership or the mansion Richard kept insisting he buy. Just a good man doing his best, showing his daughter that success isn't measured in dollars or admiration, but in how you treat people when no one's watching, in how you rise after falling, in choosing kindness when cruelty would be easier. Brad Morrison texted him later that week. "Coffee sometime? I'd like to actually know who you are now, and maybe explain who I was then." Marcus stared at the message for a long time. The old him would have deleted it, protected himself from further hurt. But he'd learned something important. Grace isn't just for those who deserve it. It's for everyone, including yourself. He typed back, "Sure, Wednesday at 10? Because at the end of the day, that's what separated Marcus from the people who'd tried to define him by his struggles. He understood that everyone carries pain, everyone makes mistakes, and everyone deserves a chance to become better than their worst moment. The Rolls-Royce had gotten their attention, but his humanity, his grace, his unwavering commitment to being a good man, that's what changed hearts. And in Emma's eyes, reflected in the rearview mirror as they drove home, Marcus saw the only success that ever really mattered.